The very first one? Okay, the diagnosis, I-25.110, Y9302. Then you have to have your bypass grafts. So you would have O21109W, and then O6BQ, OZZ, 5A12221Z, then the heart cath, 4AO23N8, and then your two arteriograms, B2161ZZ and B2111ZZ. You could have had some fluctuation there as long as you have that O21109W as your first one. That has to be first. Then you could have put your heart cath and, could have mixed it up a little after that. The bypass would be first. Okay. Any other questions on the worksheet? Did you do fairly decent? Better than the last one on the neoplasms?
To the last one.
Until the last one. And that messed you up?
I actually did that wrong. I remember dyslexic.
So
All right.
What kind of structure are you thinking about on the test?
Usual structure.
Well, you know, we had that one where we got to have our books for the whole.
Well, I don't know. I'll have to see how that plays out.
Okay.
All right.
No, we got a
Okay.
worksheet for that?
Uh,
There was no test.
No, there's a test on Wednesday
Yeah.
over circulatory and neoplasm. And then the worksheet will be over genitourinary.
Oh, we have a test.
No test over genitourinary, just a worksheet.
That's,
Okay. Now, some people have indicated they might like some extra credit. So there will be an extra credit worksheet, but I have to tell you, my extra credit, don't expect you're gonna get 30 points. Because what I do is I look at the total points and I won't do more than 2.5% of that. So it's really to help people that are borderline. So like if you have, a high B, then it may be worth it to you, but if you're a low B, you can do it. It's not going to hurt you, but I'm not sure it'll move you up to an A is what I'm talking about. So you can decide whether or not you want to do the extra credit, but it will be separate from the GU worksheet. So GU you have to do, genitourinary. The extra credit one will be optional, and they'll all be due on Wednesday. Okay, let's look at the rest of the GU chapter. Okay, so that's about page 266, I think.
Question.
Yes.
We're trying to figure out our grade as of now. What's missing from Blackboard? Is there any worksheets?
I don't think so.
Okay, so this one's already in there.
Not today's.
Okay.
Not the one I just took out.
The other one, sorry,
The
the one
other
gave
one
us
is-
back.
The neoplasm is
And how many points is it worth?
20,
20? Okay.
I believe.
What was this one worth?
Today? I don't think I've added it up. Let me see. I bet you it's 30 because it's 23 and 17 and 15. So if that's over 60, it's 30. It looks like it's probably a 30. Okay, so we're going to talk about dialysis tonight. I guess you guys just went to the dialysis place. Did they talk to you any about coding or just what they were doing?
Just what they were doing.
Just what they do.
Okay. Well, they're trying to get rid of the waste products and the extra fluid that's in the blood. Okay. Typically, this is something that they do on an outpatient basis. And there's two types. Did they talk to you about the two types, or Jennifer has, or somebody?
Yep.
So we have hemodialysis, which is done outside the body, right? The blood's taken out, it's run through a filtration machine, cleaned out, and then sent back in. So that's extracorporeal, outside the body, or hemodialysis. And then the peritoneal dialysis, they put the fluid into the peritoneal cavity, and somehow, with all your ions or whatever's going on, anybody take chemistry and remember? The bad stuff gets into that fluid and they withdraw it.
This is what my brother does every night, and
Yeah.
it's a a lot of it's sugar water, and the sugar actually attracts the toxins
Okay.
in your body.
Yeah.
And so by doing the peritoneal dialysis,
Uh-huh.
he is, his quality of life as far as feeling good
Yeah.
the whole
Mhm.
time and not having those down days
Right.
in between the hemodialysis. And aside from, he hooks himself up at 9 o'clock at night and he disconnects at 9 a.m. the next morning and
For peritoneal?
for peritoneal.
Gosh, I didn't realize it took that long.
Pretty much, well, the machine does it pretty slow.
Yeah.
And it's set, it's all, set on its own timer to drain,
Mhm.
fill, it's all
Uh-huh.
set up and you just supposedly sleep through the whole
Sleep
thing.
through it, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Beeps going off and tubes in your way. Yeah.
It's pretty
Okay.
amazing,
It is amazing, because we were talking about how, I had a friend who's about my age, her mom died about 6 months before they started hemodialysis.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, wow, 6 more months, maybe she'd have lived, but Anyway, so those are the two types. If the encounter is for hemodialysis, we don't have one of those admission 4 codes. So you're going to code the kidney dysfunction, the end-stage renal disease, or whatever they've got that's necessitating the dialysis. And then that would be your reason for encounter or your principal diagnosis if they're in the hospital. And however, they could be admitted for some other condition, right? And they're on dialysis and they have to maintain that routine dialysis. So in that case, you're going to code whatever condition necessitated the admission. You would still code as a secondary code the kidney condition. And then we have that code Z99.2, which tells us that that patient is dependent on dialysis. You would assign that, and then of course your procedure code would show that they received the dialysis. But we're not going to change it just because they're getting dialysis. It's still going to be the reason that they were admitted to the hospital. So, I don't know, maybe they come in with pneumonia or something and we have to still do the dialysis. It also gives you some codes for when they have to provide care for the dialysis catheter. So that could be like cleaning it or replacing it. And in that case, you're going to use that Z49 code, which says encounter for fitting or adjustment of a catheter. 01 is for extracorporeal, and then 02 is for peritoneal. We also have codes where it says they're admitted for adequacy testing. That's 743.31 for hemodialysis and 743.32 for peritoneal. That's where they're assessing how much fluid they're putting in and whether it's working well for them, or they need to use more fluid, less fluid, they need to bring them in more frequently. So they're just looking at the adequacy of the dialysis. And then we have the Z9115, which says we have a patient that's non-compliant with their renal dialysis protocol. I think sometimes it's not just that the patient doesn't want to do it, but sometimes maybe they don't have a ride there or something of that nature. So, but for whatever reason, it's going to affect their health, and so we have to show that they're non-compliant. The first one it talks about is the peritoneal dialysis. And whenever they're doing that, they're usually going to have to create that cutaneoperitoneal fistula. And that is basically codes out as a bypass because you're making a new route. You're bringing that fluid from the peritoneal cavity outside the body. So we're changing that route of fluids. And so the root operation is bypass. The body part is going to be where it starts, and that's going to be in the peritoneal cavity. And remember, where it ends is the qualifier. So that's going to be cutaneous, or the skin. Okay. You'll have to look, but usually a percutaneous procedure, and then a synthetic substitute is used to do get the fluid out from the peritoneal cavity to the skin. That's just the catheter. Okay. In addition to that, you would have to code the dialysis, which codes out as irrigation, And that's gonna be irrigation of the peritoneal cavity with dialysate, and again, usually percutaneous. One nice thing, you can look up dialysis in here, and you can see both the code for hemodialysis and the code for peritoneal. That's on page 54. If you go to dialysis. However, the code for hemodialysis is a single treatment, okay? There's also a code for multiple sessions. And so you may want to write that in there or somehow make yourself a little note. Multiple codes out to 5A1 D6OZ. So it's just another reminder that we really can't code straight from this index. We need to check them in the tables.
What's the code again?
The code for multiple is 5A1 D6OZ.
So is it gonna tell you in the record if it's multiple or single?
Yeah.
Is that like more than one in one day?
More than one treatment.
In a day?
I think just while they're in there, probably. I don't think they do it more than once a day. I think it's usually, they might do it, every other day or every third day.
So single would be for one, if you just needed one time.
Mhm. And sometimes you'll see that when people go on vacation. Okay, they're out of town, they have to get their treatment. They're not there for the whole month getting treatment, they're just there for one day. Okay. Then it moves on to hemodialysis, and it tells you there that access for hemodialysis can be done. Actually, they say 3, but that first one, catheter, can either be just the insertion of a catheter or it can be a venous access device, which I don't know if you remember, but we coded those in the heart section, and those require 2 codes, right? One for the actual access point where they're going to go in and stick them, and then one for the catheter that's hooked up to the venous access device that delivers the fluid. So if it's a venous access device, it's going to take 2 codes. Okay, but the catheter, when they use the catheter, it's usually a short-term situation, maybe that one dialysis session or something. And that's going to code out to insertion, root operation insertion. It's going to go into whatever vein they're putting it in. And then that's usually one of the larger veins. So it's usually going to be neck or chest. And what do we know about those? Neck and chest are central, not peripheral. Okay. So you'll code the appropriate vein. It's usually a percutaneous approach. And the device will be an infusion device. Okay. Then if you kind of keep your hand here, go back to page 431.